I thought I was over managing trades, but I was so wrong. For the people that haven't been watching the channel or the series up until this point, the last couple of weeks I've been struggling with my take profits, whether or not to trail them, whether to keep it fixed, whether to have multiple take profits. There's so many options, and I feel like I didn't have clear signals or clear data that really was telling me what to do. And I think this week really showed me why the data wasn't clear. This week, as I gained experience on reading context in the market, I realized I was looking at my take profits totally wrong. Now, of course, you have to understand what the possible expected value out of a trade will be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll get there. Now, in this video, I'm going to run through a few trades and actually show you what I mean by this and how to judge where the take profit should be, not just based on the strategy, but based on context and how you should implement that. And I will even show you some trades that really pointed this out for me this week. Now, before we get into the trades, the account started at $1,537 this fortnight. I lost $106 the week before Christmas, and the week that's just gone, as I didn't trade over that Christmas period, the week that's just gone, I am up $20.60 on that week. So in a total down about 80 or so dollars, which makes the account at $1,451.25 after fees have been taken out, which is normally about $51 at the start of each month. I should have took profit at 2R on that trade. Price was just moving slowly and weak, even though the sellers were there. But I was just too greedy and just wanted more out of that trade. Nights like this are tough because you feel like you did everything else right. And in hindsight, you're always like, I could have took 2R. Like 2R would have felt like a good trade. But in the moment, you get greedy. I just want to remember this moment next time I'm in one of those trades where something doesn't feel right. And in this trade, it was just that price was moving so slowly down, and it was, even though the tape looked good, it just would look very good and then would look weak, and it would look good and then it would look weak. Like there was just this not consistent flow. All right, so let's actually jump into trade one. Now I'm going to be doing this review a little bit differently, where I'm actually going to be reviewing the trade in Trade Replay, which is basically a feature on TradeZella that's really helpful, kind of watching how the chart plays out. And it's really been helpful when it comes to reading context for me, because I can really replay what I might have been thinking at that time and just practicing how I should be thinking when the chart's playing out, right? And how I should be reading context as it plays out. Now, if you guys do like TradeZella and want to try it out for yourself, use the code NOVICE10 to get 10% off for your first year. All right, so before we actually get into the trade, let's just have a look at kind of what I was thinking about when I came to the chart this session. So obviously we can see that we've got a huge down move, right? We're pretty powerful on the downside. So I was bearish in this session. And one thing that I want to note is that I was cautious on the trade only because we've had two legs down and we're in a bit of a range here. So I was taking that into consideration. If we do pop out on the 30-minute chart, you can see this as well, where essentially we've had an up move that was relatively weak. And the reason I want to say this is because it took us a lot of time to actually get up to this point. Whereas as you can see on the down moves, we're a little bit sharper, we're a little bit more aggressive on the down move. So that was the reason why I was still somewhat bearish in this trade, even though we've had two legs down and then may continue up. Another reason why I was bearish was because if we mark up a 50% level from the 30-minute channel, the 50% level hadn't been reached and I didn't have a significant, support level yet hit. Another reason why I was pretty bearish on this trade is if we have a look at a 50% level, we hadn't hit it yet. And if I draw up my level based on the most recent support level, it would be roughly around here. So we still hadn't quite hit it. So I was expecting price may still come down or do a final flag before then continuing up if that was to be the case. But as you can see, the sellers are super aggressive. On moves up, we're still moving quite weak. What I did from this point was then obviously drawing up 50% level. Again, on this one here, you can kind of see that there's a bit of a area from this area here. So as you can see, we've got support down here. We've got a 50% level down here. So if I drop to a 5-minute now, we can kind of see where we're at on the trade. Now, what I was being cautious of, because you can see that there is a 5-minute level, which I do mark up as well, is we've got some support here and it's acted as support. So this could act as resistance. So what I did in this trade was I moved this area a little bit bigger because that was definitely an area of support that I was looking at. So this was the area, or 50% area, that I was focusing on in this trade. Now let's have a look how it plays out. I was bearish, so I was looking to short. We've got one leg up, we've got a little bit of a pullback, and I'm hoping for a second leg and then a return down. Now I started my session after the huge pickup that we're about to see. So I'm gonna play through this and I'm gonna kind of talk through kind of what's going on, what was in my mind throughout this trade. Now that candle, I just wanna say that I missed, because I wasn't quite at my desk yet. I was drawing up the chart. I missed that initial candle. Normally I would have entered on that candle, but what I did do is it dropped and I waited for price to come up a little bit more to then re-enter, because I knew I was still going to enter that trade. You can see dropping 5-minute volume and then a peak on that upward candle, which is hinting that we've got trap buys in that candle for me. So that's why I did take a short here. So my setup at this point in time was something like this. Now the reason why I aimed for the low is essentially because I was much more bearish. If you follow Al Brooks, you know that we look for measured moves. So essentially I'm looking to possibly have another second leg. So that's leg 1 here. And then I'm expecting to have a second leg come down. So that's where I'm aiming for originally. Now I added more here because I didn't actually calculate correctly when I originally entered. And then I exited just below break even there because I entered again. Not a great trade, right? And I just want to point something out. The time that it took for us to move down was quite lengthy, right? All of these candles didn't quite have major direction. We peaked up on this candle and pushed down, but then that second candle didn't really show the same sort of follow through from the sellers. So that's one thing. But another thing, again, if you follow Al Brooks, we've got one leg and a second leg, and then we had some buying come in. So that's should have been an indication to me that, hey, something, isn't looking right, and it could possibly reject here. So, and we were at support, right? So we have a support level there. So that was all something to consider. My entry was great. The trade was great. There was nothing wrong with my entry, where my stop placement was, my original analysis. When I looked back at this trade, everything else was okay. The reason why it was not a well-managed trade, and the reason why I was so wrong, was because I should have analyzed this within the trade. And soon as the buyers started stepping in, rather than waiting, right, for buyers to come in and getting out at here, I should have got out probably at the break of the high of this red candle, right? Or even earlier, all right? Because I watched the tape. I should have been able to see that buyers were stepping in and absorption was happening, but I just didn't get out because I was like, I had that confusion around take profit. Something that we have to learn is take what the market can give you. Sometimes you'll have a perfect trade, but price won't go exactly to your level. And you need to be able to read context and be able to exit a trade in profit if it's showing you that it will reverse. Right? Being in touch with the market movements as you're in that trade. And as you can see, if we actually have my running P&L, I risked $50 on this trade. And as you can see, it hit $96 before it then reversed all the way to 13. So I still could have got 13 after fees. But essentially, as you can see, I gave back so much profit out of this trade. You'll notice it says 97 here, but that's only because it's going off where my stop loss, my original stop loss was placed, which was at 25,608. So obviously up here. After I added this, I did move it down to have my risk the same. So, and that's just because I entered poorly on my risk management side, I should say. But that's one, example of what I'm trying to explain when it comes to understanding when to take profit. And 2R is a beautiful trade, and take what the market gives you. Now, when I looked back at why I didn't take profit, there's a few things, right? I was thinking this at that point in time because I had been trying to focus so much on my context reading throughout this fortnight that we've just had. And I feel the problem came from a lack of confidence, right? In this time of my journey, I feel like I have a lack of confidence and self-doubt with my ability because I'm not quite there, right? I'm still at this break-even stage. If we actually have a look at my guest P&L, we've been losing. And right now it's definitely slowing down and it's becoming more choppy and more so flat than it ever has been. And I should look at this and allow it to give me confidence because it means I'm gaining something. Now, I'm trying not to go through the writing too much in my journal anymore. However, if we pop down here, I just want to mention a bit of a change that I'm doing with my journaling, just in case it can help you guys out there, which is I've said setup has a decent probability, 60%, plus 50% 30-minute level with a week upward movement. So obviously I'm discussing things, but what I want to point out there is I'm talking about the probability of the trade. What I've implemented is for every trade that I do, I kind of want to gauge what I believe the probability of the trade is based on my context. This helps me understand where I'm getting it wrong with my context because context is a very vague thing. I kind of take all of these things in when I'm journaling and I try and put a percentage on how likely it is based on what context is, whether it's the candle movement or how many legs we've had in the trade, etc. Right? Now, I want to go through a trade where I did it really, really well. Now you'll see on this days, I took 2 losses, which I learnt from, and I didn't take context into consideration, or more so I was looking at it, but I'm not perfect yet at reading context. And I haven't quite got down the different scenarios that I may need to consider it, or in this scenario, I should do this, kind of in my brain yet. I haven't got those nuances set yet, so I'm still learning. But I did take the right trade in the end, which allowed me to finish this day profitable. But let's go through the replay, just because I want to walk through what I was thinking on the bear chart. So this is a chart that we're looking at. Now, what I'm seeing is we're in some sort of uptrend, okay, on the 30-minute, which is great. Now, what's also nice is you can see we've had one bearish leg, we've had consolidation, and then we've had a second bearish leg, okay? I use Al Brooks, not as a way of trading, but a lens that I see the market in, and then I apply my strategy on top of that lens, okay? As you can see, we've had those 2 legs, and we've also had a really strong push up, as you can see here. So what I've done is I've drawn a 50% level up on this trade, okay? So that's the area that I'm focusing on, is that 30-minute move. And then I'm obviously dropping down to the 5-minute chart and kind of seeing where we're at. Now, we don't have too much support level here. We've got a huge gap here, so I'm looking at this area as support. I also had a volume node down here, which you won't be able to see on this platform, but I did have a volume node down here. And a lot of the times what normally will happen is price will take a low and then continue upwards, okay? Because it's taken liquidity, and this is normally where you'll see the absorption that would be evident on the tape. Again, if you guys want to see more tape videos, I'm more than happy to do them. They do take a bit of work because I've got to make sure I record myself trading and make sure I've got all that on tape. Basically, that's what I'm thinking in this trade. Now, what I did do is I drew up a level, and essentially my level was here, but I was considering slightly past it because there was a volume node lower here. So I just want to mention that I was considering it. Now, as you can see, we've had a huge push up. Now, we did have a small weaker push here, so I was being cautious because we already had leg 1, leg 2 down. So I was possibly expecting this to break, but because it was so weak, I thought that it may hold, right? And as you can see, we moved weekly down, which is also good for us because we want to see that it was moving nice and weak. Now, as you can see for the volume, we're basically dropping, okay? But what I normally focus on is just a 5-minute increment of the drop. So as you can see, it's dropping, and on this candle, it starts to peak. So again, that could indicate to me that there's trapped sellers in this candle, and we're having absorption, which I'll normally spot on the tape. Now, let's go ahead and play through this trade. I'm just going to speed it up just a little bit. All right, so there's my entry. Now I'm just going to show you where my stop was. I just want to pause for a second because there's something that I should mention here. Because we had this huge 30-minute move, I did have a 50% level drawn here. And I was thinking, okay, we've had one move here, right? We could get this move here, and this move could possibly hit our 50% zone up there. So I was thinking long term of this trade that, hey, maybe this trade could go to this 50% level. So this could be a really big trade, right? That was what I was thinking in my mind, but I didn't want to consider that because again, you've got to trade what the market gives you. So I'm still being very vigilant and kind of watching the tape, watching how the candles are forming. Are they forming quite strong? Do we have a lot of momentum upwards? Because if you think about it, if we've got this setup where one leg's formed, we've got pullbacks, and then we're going for a second leg, you would likely expect that it would be just as high in momentum, right? Because we're really at that point on the up move. And if we are, you would see that happen. Now, I just want to mention something. Now, I'm in a setup already here, so I didn't re-enter and I was at my kind of risk limit. But if I wasn't at my risk limit, or if I had a bit more of a dynamic risk based on my strategy. Now, I think I would implement this in the future, but I'm just not there yet. Again, we've got to kind of crawl before we walk and walk before we run. So I didn't add here, but you can actually see, if you actually mark this up, we were near a 50% level. The volume was dropping and then peaked again. And this could have been a nice re-entry on the trade again to really maximize the profit out of the trade, and even pulling my stop up, okay, to under this red candle. But of course, I didn't do that again because I'm not ready for that. Price was moving up quite fast, but we formed one leg and we formed two leg, and then this candle peaked on the up move. And if you have a look here, we were at a 50% level. So that was enough evidence for me to go, I'm at 3R on this trade. I'm at a 50% level. We've had two legs. They weren't extremely bullish legs. You know, we've got some candles on the tops here, right? We're starting to have a bit of wicking on the top, okay, on that second leg. I was going to exit there. I wasn't going to give back much more profit. Now, let's see what actually happened with this trade. So it went a little bit further, but as you can see, if I just kept holding, I would have got tapped out by that huge candle. But I just want to show you how crazy it was. It actually came back down, took the liquidity below the low, and shot back up. And that candle, on a different day, on a time where I'm less experienced, that candle would have took me out of the game, but it didn't. And I'm thankful for that I was able to have the strength to take that 3R, because 3R is a really nice profit on a trade. And yeah, I'm super happy with my performance on this trade. Now, although this was my only focus this fortnight, was to focus on my context and get better, I had a day that I completely failed at it. I didn't take context into consideration. I was trading emotionally. I was chasing trades. Tonight, I rushed to the charts after an exercise, so I was already feeling very hot, flustered. I felt like I missed the setup. Didn't take time to analyze the probability, the context. Tonight, I just fell into all the mistakes I've been making up until this point. Nights like this are hard because I feel like I should know better by now to not just rush into trades. And tonight was one where I just took trade after trade after trade. And even after the first loss, it wasn't this ounce of hang on, let's just wait. And I was just flustered. You can still see my face is red from exercising, and I'm only just starting to cool down. I need to mentally prepare. All athletes stretch, they have these
routines that get them in the mindset they need to be in, and I just feel like I need that for myself, whether it's maybe I write journal, before a trading session, and, talk about the things that I want to do well, so they're fresh in the mind.
And as you can see, I had a big losing day of $152. So it's good because it's in my daily risk limit, so I was able to stop myself before going over that. But if we have a look at last week, I had another day on the exact same, mindset where I've just come in and I've just not traded well.
I'm disappointed in myself tonight because most of the trades, but one, were all my fault. I just wasn't cautious enough. I wouldn't even say it's focus. I got a bit of personal stuff going on tonight, and so I was risking too much on trades. The trades that I took were absolutely stupid, and I knew straight after it. And there was one trade that was kind of okay, but I think I didn't wait for a clear enough signal on the tape to take it. So again, it was just I could have performed better tonight, and I didn't, and I have to take that. And then I took a trade over my max loss limit. I just did not perform tonight, and that's on me.
And after this day, because this is not the only time, if you actually have a look at a lot of weeks, I'm doing really, really well. And then I have 1 or 2 days that I just throw it all away. And what I found was the main reason for this is I would come to the chart and my mentality wouldn't be there. Whether I had something personal going on, or I just was late and rushing to the chart trying to get to my trading session because I'm a very busy person, whatever it may be, I didn't give myself time to really relax and get into flow state, right? Get into that state of mind that allows you to be focused. And that's why I've implemented this week. I basically lay on my Shakti mat. I've got 5 minutes where I'm visualizing my trades, visualizing looking at context. And then I journal after it and kind of journal what I'm going to focus on. And then I get to sit at my chart. What this does is it allows me to cool down after my exercise and get into the mentality and the calm mentality that I need to be bringing to the trading session. And hopefully this will avoid those losing days of just consistent losses because my head's just not in the game. And as you can see, even in the past December, you can see I do the same thing. 4 losing trades in a row, 4 losing trades in a row, 4 losing trades in a row, 4 losing trades in a row. And I just come in and you can see it's one after another every single time, very in like a short increment. So it's something I'm noticing I'm doing. And I'm hoping that bringing this in helps me become more consistent with my performance when I show up at the chart. Now, there are some other things that I'm picking up within my trading strategy, which is basically on these days where I'm rushing to the charts, it's a lot of the time when like a 30-minute level is setting up. But the problem is I only wait for a 5-minute spike of volume and then I enter. But the problem is oftentimes you'll have the volume spike continue. So it might be 3 massive volume spikes, for example, or 2, depending on the trade, right? But for example, it was a few on this one, right? It spiked here and it spiked here and then again here. And what I do is I enter on that 5-minute, where if I had waited for the volume to actually spike on a 30-minute time frame, right? Because if it's a 30-minute level, you expect it to be a pretty heavy spike, right? And it could continue to spike until eventually, because it takes time to slow down and actually absorb those sellers, right? Absorb those trapped sellers that are there. It takes time to do that, especially if you're on a 30-minute level, right? I've noticed if it is a 30-minute level, what I need to do is wait for the 5-minute and the 30-minute to spike at the level, and this could hopefully improve my entry and make it more accurate so I'm not wicked out and don't keep getting caught on these like almost falling knife trades when they're a trade. You can see it was a really good trade, but it was just when I should be entering. I need to see that spike on both. So I noticed that as well. And again, thinking in probability has helped me heaps with understanding my context and just journaling in general and my trading in general. And if you guys want to use TradeZeller and try it out for yourself, click the link below, use the code novice10 to get 10% off your first year. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.